All right, folks, we are back with Family Law Talk and with Valerie Bracci.
Hello.
Hello, who is, shattering all my dreams of buying something else right now.
I'm not, the market is.
There we go. It's definitely not Valerie.
Yes,
She's been a wealth of information for me for quite a while.
We'll get it. Well, when it's the right one, it'll happen.
That's true.
We'll get it.
At some point, we will look at doing something different. But it's, actually Valerie was very good about telling me something about sometimes you need to go out and look at some things and it makes you realize how much you love the home you have.
Absolutely.
And that has happened quite a bit because it's like I'm comparing the houses to what I already have. And it's like, well, to get it to basically where what.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Right.
So, so it helped in making that decision.
Good.
Yeah, so that has been good.
I have talked people out of buying homes a number of times, which is not good for my business. But I'm more about I want my clients to be happy and thrive and be excited where they are. And sometimes I had one person that we looked and looked and looked, and they love their backyard.
Right.
And we went and sat down at the table, and they said nothing compares with our backyard.
Right.
And I just said, listen. I want it as much as I would love to sell you a home. And will when the time is right. But what I hear you saying is that you just want to update the inside of your home. So look at these magazines over here that you have. Pick out some things, get some new furniture, paint the walls, and you will be in love. And that's what happened, and they are so happy, and they get their backyard. They get to keep their backyard.
But that kind of thing is, I think, really important. One of the things that I will tell my clients is, look, nobody enjoys a bare-knuckle brawl in the courtroom more than me.
Right.
But the only one in that situation who really makes out well is me.
Right.
So it's great. It's super, super expensive for somebody going through it, and it is risky. Luckily, our results when it comes down to that are usually pretty damn good. But it still doesn't take away what the expense is. So
that's right.
So I think it's fantastic, and people trust that when you're up front and tell them, look, it's not in your best interest to do this. I'll do well out of it, but I think that is something that people trust when you are upfront and honest with them about that. So I wanted to circle back around certain things. So if you have somebody who is looking at they're going to go ahead and sell their home in this market, and they're not really concerned about either renting a place or buying something else after it. What are the things that you would recommend to them that people need to keep in mind in that scenario?
Well, the thing is, I think it's an amazing time to sell. But that is literally the first thing I ask people is, we can get you way more than you can even imagine, but where are we taking you?
Right.
Because it will go very fast and you will be homeless. So, so we need to have a plan. And so, that is the first thing I would say is you have to have a plan because it's going to go faster than you think. More than likely, 30 days is kind of the max. I mean, sometimes you can get a lease back. There are ways to, because people are so desperate, and so they will give you whatever you want, in a lot of cases. So, a lot of times you can get a lease back and get a few extra weeks or, a month or something like that if you need more time in the home. But for the most part, knowing where you're going is very, very important. And I would think in your case, knowing who wants to stay there, who wants to go. Is this too much house? A lot, and so really kind of, I think, sitting down and talking with your team and who's going to really be real with you and help you think through, because I would imagine I was raised in a divorced family and been divorced myself. So I know about these things as well. A lot of times those can be such emotional times that you really need somebody who has your best interest to really sit down and do some soul searching with you. Because the last thing I want somebody to do is go off because they think it's what they should be doing or their friend told them they need to do. And then they're in a house that, they didn't really want, they paid extra for, or they're not going to be happy with long term. So I think having a plan and really knowing what you want is very important.
I'm glad to hear you mention that because I completely agree with you. And the market now, the rental market, as far as if you're going to rent a home or townhome or something like that, is rough.
It is
right now. So what about if somebody wanted to, how is the apartment market out there? If somebody finds themselves all of a sudden, oh my God, it's great, I sold my house for so much more money than I thought, but now where the hell am I going to go? Can they find themselves in, being able to get into an apartment, or is even that problematic these days?
I don't want to answer incorrectly on that because I don't really know about the apartments, to be honest. What I do know is that people who, I help people get into homes like rental homes or townhomes or things like that.
Yep.
But as far as just an apartment complex, I'm not sure. As far as renting a townhome or a condo or a home, those are more competitive, very competitive. And so many times, even those are going well over ask.
Can't tell
the rental.
We fought and fought.
Did
for
you
ours.
really?
We just leased ours in January.
Yeah.
So
that's happening a lot too.
It's interesting too, based on the area, because it's interesting because there's some deals to be had in Dallas.
Yes.
But you move north, and there are no
bananas.
deals to be had.
It's really hard.
Well, I mean, I look into everything, right? Because I still have a small child. So you look at schools still.
Sure.
So if you move to Dallas, which ISD, do they go to private school? Is private school going to outweigh the cost of your home? So should you just stay in the area that you're at because that's the school that they're going to?
Yes. Yes. Those are all important considerations. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because, there are clients of mine who are newlyweds and they have... a lot of them, thankfully, have saved up money for this type of market.
Right.
And so they have a higher chance of getting a home. But a lot of them aren't thinking of, okay, is this in a good school district? Because they're not, they haven't even had their kids yet. So that's a great point to think about whether you're renting or purchasing, before kids are even a thought. So
I think it's going to be like New York. I mean, you think about it, even before your kid isn't born, you're trying to get them into preschool, right?
Right.
And then here, you're trying to get into the right neighborhood so that your kids can go to the appropriate schools with the best rankings or great programs or whatever it is that your children need versus private school.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah, it was brutal. We didn't even get a chance to, we looked at the house for 5 minutes and then we had to put in an offer.
Right.
And then we had to battle for it.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy right now. I mean, now they're, like I said, there's some options in Dallas that are interesting. And I mean, frankly, that would be something that if I didn't spend the majority of my time in my Frisco office, I would actually consider, that could be a temporary kind of deal until I found what I really wanted. But otherwise, it's difficult.
Well, I mean, we've even looked for investment properties, and I think some of those deals that you're talking about, you see a few more deals, I think, generally speaking, in condos and things.
Yes.
Because of the HOAs.
Right.
And, well, first of all, I think there are two factors. I think, first of all, with COVID, a lot of people thought, I need more space. I need to be away from people. We don't know what's coming. Is it coming back or whatever?
Right.
But then the other thing is those HOA fees can be pretty substantial.
Exactly.
And so it really cuts down on your ROI if you're trying to make it income producing.
Absolutely.
So I think that's some of the reasons why those are more appealing. And then the situation with the schools. And then there's just so much happening in Collin County.
Yeah.
So it is a lot more competitive.
So if you were breaking it down on a county basis, is there one county that is more difficult than others to get into right now, or?
I think more than county, I would just say neighborhoods, certain neighborhoods. But I mean, I will say just Collin County in general is, it is highly competitive.
Right.
But, because of the schools are so good in many of the Collin County cities, but certain areas of Dallas have always been the top. They've always been the most desirable. They are going to continue to be the most desirable.
Sure.
So, East Dallas, the Park Cities, Lakewood, a lot of those are just going to stay, record breaking, just like we are seeing in Collin County.
Yep.
So
interesting.
In those areas, are you seeing a lot of the tear down and rebuild, even the newer structures, right? So I've seen houses that are just 10 years old that people are just like demoing and rebuilding just because. You do
see it, yeah.
So are you seeing that more often now in the current market, or?
I would say not. I mean, we are seeing that some, but I have also seen a lot of developers chomping up lots. And, and then building, because then once they build theirs, then you can have the multiple offer situation on that. And I was even with a client at a home builder, because I represent with new construction as well. I feel like that's very important because, and that's another misconception a lot of people don't realize, because the builder's rep they're the sales rep for the builder, not for you.
Right.
And so,
yeah, exactly.
So I've had to come back in many times and really advocate on pushing stuff through. The builder isn't doing what they say they're going to do and all of that. Right. So, but the other day, they have hundreds deep on those waiting lists, hundreds. And, I walked in, they had available lots, and we said, we like the lots. Can my client put down the money for the lot? And they said, nope, we're not selling the lots. We're going to go ahead and now build it ourselves, the way that we want to, choose the elevation, choose the finish out, all of that. Then we're going to put it on the market. It'll hit MLS. Your agent can bring you, and then y'all can do the multiple offer situation. So even some builders are even taking away the chance for clients to buy the lot and build to their liking.
Everywhere in Ellen.
So, yeah.
Everywhere.
It's crazy. Yeah, some builders are still doing it, but those are on a lot system. So it's the first 3 people, if they're releasing 3 per month, then the first 3 people that email back or call get those. And then, you're back to square one next month, and you hope that you get the first 3 emails off. I mean, it's even really competitive on that. So
that's crazy.
It is.
And then you ask, well, what about the upgrades? Or, what if I want to change something? Oh, okay, you can change that at closing. We'll even do it for you with our, our contractors and everything like that. But we're going to build it the way that we want it, a spec home. And then.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Yeah, so we're seeing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Wow. Yeah. So if you're representing a buyer, okay, what would be the 3 biggest tips that you would give a buyer?
Save your money. Tip number 1.
Right.
No, but I mean, it's serious, but really there are ways around it. Hopefully this is where it's going to even out a little bit, because a lot of us agents just feel so sorry for our buyer clients. But so as a buyer, I would say just important things for qualifying. Don't open up a lot of new lines of credit. Is going to be one, because you want to keep your debt to income ratio as low as possible so that you qualify for more, especially as these things are being pushed higher and higher.
Yep.
Find a good lending professional. Well, or a good real estate agent who can connect you with a good lending professional, because a lot of times people will do the Rocket Mortgage. Nothing against Rocket Mortgage, but some of the online things. I'm sorry if I need to cut that.
No, you're fine.
You're fine.
A lot of the online ones, you don't have a person that is going to really know your market. Know Texas. Know how to hold your hand every step of the way. And so I think really getting a good pre-qualification is good and important. One thing that I do want to mention that I recently learned that will be important for you, and you may already know this, but in order to qualify, it's important to get those, the temporary orders, the money coming in immediately, because as a lender, they require 6 months of someone receiving the child support payments. And so I'm sure you already think about that and have that planned out, but that's important for a buyer, because a lot of people, if they're not connected to someone who knows what they're doing in these situations, then they, may go to close and want to buy a house, and they just started getting child support yesterday. So then they have to wait 6 months and, rent, and most people don't want to rent to you for 6 months. They want a year. And so, so Just having your ducks in a row, and I think the biggest thing is having your team of experts who really want to take care of you and make sure that all of your needs are met and that you have what you're looking for.
Right.
You know, and that know what you're doing.
Right.
So really planning in advance, having your team, I think, are really important. Keeping your costs as low as possible. Don't go buy a new car. Don't go buy, you know, a new line of credit with furniture. You know, things like that, because people do that, and it's knocked people out of being able to close.
Right.
So, and then contractually, they're under contract, and they've said they would close, and then they don't qualify, and they're out of the financing period. So, you know, there's just a lot of things to keep in mind. But I think as long as, you know, somebody like me will, one of the first things I do is say, let's connect you with a lender, because I'll help you find the house.
Right.
But we want to make sure that you qualify, and so, you know, getting that set up ahead of time. And then the legal stuff that you need to work with,
right,
as far as, you know, who's going to keep it? Is it going to be a buyout, this or that?
Right.
You know, that's your expertise, helping them know all of that stuff.
Well, one of the challenging areas right now, like I said, is you know, is figuring out what the number is going to be. You know, so it used to be, you know, someone was going to keep the house, you could get a pretty good idea. You'd talk to a real estate agent. You'd also talk to an appraiser. You'd get the appraisal done. And you were generally relatively close. Right now, so much stuff is a crapshoot that it's just kind of like, you know, trying to figure it out. So one of the easier things is going ahead and putting it on the market and selling it. But then you've got the problem that we were talking about. You know, who's going to go where and all of that kind of stuff. So,
and that's true.
So,
but I think if cash out is the end goal, it's good to find a place to go and do that while we're in this market.
Yep.
Because everyone will have more money in their pocket.
Absolutely.
And so that's a great situation.
All right.
So.
Well, everybody stay tuned. We're going to have a few more wrap-up questions to finish our little discussion here of real estate in the Dallas market right now, which is just crazy. So stay tuned.